All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us on LearnBiz The Podcast. We are back with another phenomenal guest. Today, we are going to be talking about the clothing industry a bit, and we're going to learn a little bit more about our guests momentarily. I am Sandy, one half of LearnBiz The Podcast, and I'm going to hand it off to Lisa.
Hey guys, I'm Lisa K. Crawford, and I'm the other half, and we're so glad to be here with you to talk all things entrepreneurs. And so we have an attorney entrepreneur in the house, and you might think she's talking about all things being a lawyer, but no, we're talking about the clothing industry. And I'm going to hand it back over to Sandy so she can kick it off with Tracy and ask her all about her entrepreneurial journey in the clothing industry.
All right, so before we get started, folks, please make sure that you click like and click share, and be sure to subscribe to our channel so you'll be notified when we have future guests. So I'm very pleased to introduce our guest today. Tracy is someone that I've known since my early years of practice, and we both have gone through the trenches a bit when it comes to the practice of law. But Tracy has decided to tap into her creative side. And I've always known that this was something that Tracy was going to do. I just didn't know. So I would definitely like you, Tracy, to share a little bit about yourself. So go ahead and introduce yourself before we get going.
Well, as you know, my name is Tracy. I am an attorney by day, business owner by evening and night. I started this maybe in like 2015 because I was always a creative. I was like making stuff. It started with flyers for different events. I used to make flyers. Then people needed logos. I started making logos. I started doing some business packages. I ended up making a website for a church just by accident. It wasn't my intention to do that, but they kept asking questions and they were like, "Can you do this?" I was like, "I don't know. I'll see if I could do it." And it ended up working out. So I started with that. And then I always liked the idea of wearing something that I made. Um, so I decided to kind of tap into that and create this clothing line. It started, well, before I got to the clothing line, it really started with shirts for events. Like if someone was having an event, like back then, we used to buy like this iron-on paper from like Walmart. You'll print on it and use like your iron at home and iron it on. It'll last for like a day before it starts cracking and tearing. But that's what I used to do. And then um, I came up with this clothing line based on my faith because I felt like growing up, I was always in church, grew up in church. But I felt like a part of me was kind of ashamed. Like when you were when you're in school, you want to be cool. Like you want to hang out with everybody, all that kind of stuff. And at the time, it just wasn't cool to me to like be living, what I considered right, doing all the right things. Um, so I was like, since I'm not someone who likes to talk a lot, I'll just wear it. Because if I wear it, everyone will know, where I stand. So that's kind of how the whole clothing brand and came about. I was like, if I'm gonna wear shirts, I might as well wear shirts that I make. So that's really how that whole thing started. It was how the whole living life unashamed um, came about.
Well, it's interesting because I remember the Tasha Cobb sessions late night at the office. So I definitely understand the foundation of this. And I love that you have tapped into your faith, which is very, very important to you, and made it into something that you can share with others. So why Fruitful Apparel? Because that is the name of your line. But what was the motivation behind that wording that you chose?
So in Genesis, the Bible actually says to be fruitful and multiply. So fruitfulness is always indicative of multiplication and growth. And that's what I wanted my business to be. I wanted to be fruitful. I wanted to be an example of starting something and living the way we're supposed to live, which is to be fruitful. So I just kind of tapped into that, and that was the name.
So, in terms of the early days in getting Fruitful Apparel started, what was it that was that one thing that said, you know what, I have to do this? Like, this is the day I'm going to start, and this is how you got started. Like, what was that thing that kind of triggered it all?
It was YouTube. I was on YouTube, really and truly, and I just stumbled across people. You know, when you get into the YouTube trenches, you go down the rabbit hole, you come across all kinds of stuff, and I just started seeing people like selling T-shirts. They were like, "Oh, how to start a T-shirt business," and I was like, "I feel like this is what I was trying to do for the longest. I just really didn't know how to do it, or I wasn't sure that it was something that I could do. Like I always thought of selling T-shirts as, you know, like big store brand. Like you go into a Ross or a Walmart or something like that, and that's how you sell shirts. And I was like, how do you get into like Ross or Walmart? That's crazy. So it wasn't really. I never really thought about just using social media. And I think, you know, coming across those YouTube videos, it was just something like, I was like, if they can do it, I can do it. I'm already doing this. It's just a matter of putting together the processes and just getting it out there. And so that's what I started to do.
And that's definite motivation for sure. I encourage anybody who's watching this, who is thinking about getting something started, to please be sure to comment on this video. And also, please be sure to subscribe to the channel. So I'm going to hand it over to Lisa. She's probably got some questions, I'm sure, for Miss Tracy Small.
Well, Miss Tracy, I'm already very impressed with just the thought process that you put in to your business name, the intentionality with which you started. And what I'd like to know is, speaking of processes, did you hear anyone reference a business plan? Did you start with a business plan? Did you do numbers? How formal did you get in initiating your business in terms of laying it out on paper?
Okay, so when I first started, so technically I started this venture around maybe like 2015, which was when I was fresh out of finished passing the bar, you know, looking for work and trying to do something on the side. And at that time, I didn't have my own space. You know, I was a broke law student coming out of law school. So I didn't have my own space yet or anything like that. So I kept researching ways to, how can I sell shirts without having inventory? Because that was a big deal for me because I didn't have anywhere to store it. I considered it a loss, like, because I didn't start with just one design like most people did. So I took a different route to what I normally see people make. They usually start with one design and just kind of push that one design. I had a lot of ideas and I just put them all down and put them all out there. So for me, the idea of keeping inventory didn't seem profitable to start out with. So as I was researching ways to see how I can do this without having inventory, I came across something known as print on demand. So it is basically, it's a bunch of different print on demand sites, but the concept is you upload your artwork. When someone orders it, they'll pull the shirt, print it, package it with your logo and ship it out. So you never touch it. You just make the design and upload it. And when someone pays, the print on demand company takes their money out and deposits your money into whatever account you set up with them. So it's basically like my only job was to make designs and upload them to this website.
That is cool. I love the way you streamline that.
Yeah.
Did you find that you still needed to engage in advertising? And I mean, obviously, you're probably your best advertiser wearing your products, but how did you kind of get the word out to other people that, you know, this is a business and that you can help others with it?
So I created a website. So I was always good at that aspect of things, like making my own website, things like that. So I made my own website, built it around this print on demand service. And then I just kept throwing it out on Facebook. I just kept posting it. Like, I made a page for the business and I just kept posting it. And word of mouth is always going to be, to me, the best form of advertisement at the end of the day. So when I started, that's what I did. Starting this year, there was a little more intentionality behind everything that I did. Because I was in a different space. So if I'm being honest, between maybe like 2016 until now, the business was just existing on whatever steam it had. Like, I wasn't putting any work into it because I got into a position where I was focused on, my legal career and trying to make sure I was stable financially. And that this wasn't making enough money to make me stable financially. So there was a lapse there. At the end of last year, I was talking to a friend of mine who was also starting her business. And I was talking about how all of the obstacles that I felt like I had to put everything behind the business kind of cleared itself up. Like, I found myself in a stable place financially. I'm in my own space. I have space that if I want to have inventory, I can have inventory. And then I started doing other research into how to increase my profit margin, which meant making the shirts myself at home. So, that involved buying equipment now. So I have to buy equipment to make my own shirts, all kind of stuff. But it was just something I really wanted to do because I consider this my passion project. So if it makes me $1 million, that's awesome. If it doesn't, it's still awesome for me because it's my passion project. Like, I genuinely enjoy doing it. So because it was my passion project, I put the money into buying the equipment, into buying all of that so that I can make my own designs at home. And that's what I started doing this year. So, like, I have a whole space dedicated to, making these shirts. Like, I invested that money, that time, because now I feel like I have the ability to put, my best foot forward in doing what I wanted to do. So it's better this way as far as profit margins are concerned, because it's less cost to me because I'm not paying a third party to do what I can now do. And also, again, it's something I enjoy. So to me, it pays me twice to do it the way that I'm doing it now.
Yeah, when you love it, you don't feel like you're really working, right? Even if you work another job, your main bread and butter job all day, and you come and you have this second job, so to speak, it's your passion, it's your love. So I definitely get it. Thank you.
Right. No problem.
All right. So, Tracy, when we think about entrepreneurship, so many things, of course, can come to mind. And I know you and I both are well aware of some of the ups, downs, and twists and turns. What were some of your challenges in trying to really step into the business when you really stepped forward?
I think my biggest challenge was advertising, because when I started, I never wanted it to be a business where I relied on people I know to support my business, because that doesn't really work. Like, as even with all the good intentions that people have, the truth is, and it to me, it's the truth of entrepreneurship, is if I see my friend making something, I feel like you're my friend and I don't have to pay you full price for it. But we go in the store and we don't question. And I think it's just something built in. I don't think there's any ill intent behind it. I just think it's how we think. Like, if my friend has it, I have it. We don't really think about it all the way. We're so far removed from manufacturers. And to me, it goes into the age-old thing about entrepreneurship, where we'll pay $50 for a Gucci shirt, but for a shirt that someone makes, you don't want to pay $10 for it just because you know them. It's where we place value either way. So thinking about that, I never wanted it to be a business where I relied on just people I know. So to me, it had to be, how do I get beyond that? Now, I will say that I'm fortunate enough that the people I know do support me. So I didn't really have that problem, right? But because I know it to be a problem, I I wanted to find a way to get past that. So getting past that means, how do I get my stuff in front of strangers, right? And advertising can be expensive. So you have to spend money to make money, but I still always believe there's kind of a I felt like I had more wiggle room since I wasn't depending on this for my income, right? I didn't feel like I had to dive in head first. I felt like I can take my time and kind of go at it and build. So that's what I've been doing. Like last night, I actually had my first influencer post on Instagram. Um, and I just randomly reached out to a guy that what a lot of people don't know about me is I love sneakers. Like you look at the top of my closet, there are sneaker boxes everywhere. So whenever I built my t-shirts, like a lot of the colors that I use are colors that match up with whatever sneakers are coming out. Right. So right. So
Nice.
that's kind of how it goes for people who don't know anything about sneakers and people who do. Because for me, it was always, okay, what am I going to wear with these sneakers? Right. So I built it kind of like that. And I found this guy on Instagram who he's a Christian. He promotes Christian wear and he's always doing reviews on sneakers. So to me, he was like my target audience. He was my consumer avatar, what they call it. Like this is the person that I want to sell to.
Nice.
So I reached out to him and I was just like, if I send you a shirt, can you like take pictures and post it? And he just said yes. So I sent him a shirt for him and his son. And he made a post for me last night. He said he's going to take pictures and post them as well. But I also connected with him on another level because his son is autistic. And at the time, I was posting all of my autism awareness shirts, and my little cousin's autistic, so I deal with a lot of things with SFACs. Like, Sandy knows about all of that. Like, we're comrades in that as well. So it was like we connected on that level. So when I made his shirts, I included an autism patch on the sleeve, and I sent it to him. It was kind of relatable. So he did some free advertising for me. He put it out there. And that's kind of how I'm going about, building my brand. I've given away a good amount of t-shirts since I started, but to me, that was just the cost of business. And because people see people in your shirt, oh, where did you get that from? They tell them. And then, they come back, make orders. So it's been a slow roll, and I don't even think it's been that slow because I really started full force since maybe February, end of February, beginning of March, like going back at it full force, buying my equipment and stuff. And I've had so far a steady stream of business. So it's not a bunch of shirts a day, but it's been steady. Like people have been coming in, more people that So I've been kind of hitting it like that and utilizing Instagram and TikTok, which is all the famous things, and learning how that works and how to utilize that to kind of it's a slow build. I think at the end of the day, once you build an audience, it'll work itself out.
So what is some advice that you would give to someone who's just getting started, wants to have their own t-shirt line, and is like, what do I do? What would you give them as advice?
My first piece of advice is just do it, because a lot of my hesitation and a lot of my downtime was me trying to figure out how to make everything perfect before I start. Right? I was like, oh, I need to have this in place. I need to have this in place. I need to do this. I need to do that. And it's not until I get this or get that can I start. And once you do that, first of all, we're never going to be perfect, which means you'll never start. So for me, my first piece of advice is just do it. Whatever it is, like if you have a t-shirt design and it's just one design, make your design. Find a print-on-demand website. There's Printful, there's Printify. If you don't want to have inventory, find one of those. Throw it up there. If you have because I started, if I had to put my startup cost out there with everything bare minimum, if you wanted to start making t-shirts, You need a computer, which most of us have,
Mm-hmm.
a heat press machine, and like a Cricut. And that stuff could run you. Don't go get all the big name brand heat presses that cost $600. You could get that afterwards. Go on Amazon, $200 heat press. Buy a Cricut from like Michael's or Walmart, $200 to $300. If you have $500 to invest, you can start and just put yourself out there. Like me, there's no time now that I leave the house unless I'm going to, like a professional setting. But at this point, there's no time I leave the house where I don't have on one of these shirts in some color or something like that, just so people can see it. Because it's not everyone that sees you that they're gonna ask. But I know that my logo's on my sleeve, right? So if they see it, all they have to do is go to Google. If you go to Google right now and type in fruitful apparel, my stuff is gonna come up because number one, no one else has that name, and I put it in everything. So the search engine is optimized to show my stuff. So my thing is, the first thing is do it. If it's something you want to do by hand, invest in the equipment. There's nothing that we can do without investment. So I'm a planner. Before I got to this point in February, like last year when I thought about it, I opened a whole separate savings account and was putting $20 in there every week. Right? And to the point where I got to, all right, now I'm ready to buy this equipment. There goes my money. It's already to the side. It doesn't belong to anything else. So plan for it that way. I don't buy my t-shirts wholesale yet because I never felt like I was at that point. So what I do, Michael's had a sale the other day. I went to Michael's and grabbed a shirt, like and make my own thing. So it's really figuring out what works for you. There was a lot of filtering that I had to do when I was watching YouTube videos because people will make you believe you need the most expensive equipment and you need all the high-end things because that's where they're at. And that's the kind of stuff people like to see. So they're building their channel. I don't fault them. That's where they are now. But a lot of people don't tell you where they started, which was with the $200 heat press and the little Cricut in your living room. Like, doing what you have to do. So my thing is cut out all the little excuses. Like, I don't have a space. I don't have that. Like, those are all little that you can bypass. And once you just set your mind to, I'm going to do this, just do it. And understand that you're not making $1 million tomorrow. You're not making $1,000 tomorrow, right? You might not make $100 tomorrow, but the longer that you go and you building on that, eventually you'll make money. It takes time. It takes a lot of research. Like I had to look into what makes things pop on Instagram. So it's not just a fly by night thing. Like I didn't just get up and do it. I do at night sometimes. I'm online researching. Okay, how do I get things to show up on Instagram? How do I get things to show up on Facebook? Like doing those kind of things that people could tell you, but it's until you do it, you don't really get it. So it's like make up your mind that you're going to put in a lot of unpaid hours to get it done. And that's just the reality of the situation. But if it's something you love to do, it really won't matter.
Yes, it doesn't feel like work when you love it.
Exactly.
What do you do in your day job? What type of law do you practice?
I do e-discovery. So I'm a manager at for any attorneys that watch it, it's Doc Review. It's a Doc Review company, but I work in management now. I got out of the trenches.
Congratulations on that.
Yeah, I got out of the trenches of Doc Review and made it to management. So that is my day job. I manage all the projects that come in and do personnel work and just make sure that it all flows for the people in the trenches. So that's my day job. I used to do family law, but the drama, I can't do the drama.
Before you tell everybody how they can reach you on all your social media, can you Can you think of a scary moment in business? Has there been something that's been frightening or scary for you along the way, or?
So I don't like spending money, right? So anytime I had to pull money out of my pocket and I wasn't sure how I was gonna get it back, that was always scary for me. But one example is I was on the phone with my mom and I was going to Michael's to buy t-shirts for an order that I had. And I told my mom, I was like, "Ma, if I had a little bit more faith, I'll buy extra t-shirts." Mind you, these would be t-shirts that I didn't have orders for yet. And up until that moment, my business plan was when someone makes an order, that's when I'm buying t-shirts. That's when I'm making it so that I'm not having inventory on hand, because the hardest thing with t-shirts is you never know what size somebody's going to order. So I was like, Mom, if I had a little bit more faith, because these shirts are a really good deal right now, I would buy extra shirts. And she said to me, she was like, well, she's like, maybe you'll find some faith by the time you get to Michael's. Right. So I'm driving to Michael's, I'm talking to my mom, and by the time I pulled into the parking lot, I was like, all right, I'm gonna just buy extra shirts. And my mom, she said to me, she was like, you found that faith real quick.
That's right.
So I went in and I bought extra shirts, and I've sold almost all the extra shirts that I bought. I've made back that money already. So it's kind of like in those moments for me, that's where my faith kicks in. Do I believe that this is something that is going to prosper? Yes, I do. And if I believe that it's something that's going to prosper, I can put my money into it today because I know that I'm going to get it back. So that's the scary part for me, is just sometimes, that's the scary part of faith in general. It's something you can't see. It's just something you believe is going to happen. So for me, it's just been stepping out on faith. And it's been easier and easier because ever since then, every time I've gone to Michael's to buy shirts for an order, I buy extra shirts. Yeah, and I don't even think about it anymore. I'm just like, oh yeah, I'm going to grab these extra shirts. And ever since I started, the shirts at Michael's have been on sale.
Nice.
Ever since I started. So I just have to believe that everything has been lining up for me. And I think, yeah.
And Tracy, and that all things work together
for I was about to
Lord.
Exactly. The Bible talks about if we just show up, that everything's already waiting for us. We just have to show up in the thing that we were called to do. So if I believe that this is it, all I have to do is show up. And as long as I show up, he'll continue to provide. He'll provide the money, he'll provide the people, he'll provide the clients, he'll provide the channels. So that's really the lane that I'm going on with this whole thing.
And that shows you that your entrepreneurial journey is also a faith walk, as it should be with all of us. I kick it back to Sandy now. Thank you so much for just a great discussion today.
No problem.
So Tracy, give us some last words. We talk about the entrepreneur journey. We talk about entrepreneur mindset here on LearnBiz The Podcast. What would be your final words to any entrepreneurs out there that have an idea, a dream, a hope? What would you give them as your last words?
I think my last words would be go with your passion, because it's easy to chase dollars. I could be making shirts that say anything, right? We know all the popular things that we see. I can do that. I can go drop a bunch of shirt designs on Etsy that are just popular, but have nothing to do with how I think or how I feel. And I'll probably make some money. I'm not saying it's something that I don't do, because I make custom shirts as well, not just my brand shirts. So if people want shirts for events and things like that, I do that. But again, this is where my passion is, right? So I follow my passion, and I believe if I follow my passion, then money will come to me. So my thing, I guess my thing to people would be go with your passion, because those people who are making money off of the things you see is because they went with their passion, right? It was something that they enjoyed. You might not enjoy that. So you can make, I guess for me, I've never been a fan of making a bunch of money and being unhappy. So Go with it. When you go with your passion, everything else will fall into place. You'll enjoy it. You'll make money, and it'll pay you twice. And that's always my thing. It's paying me in passion. It's paying me in love. It's paying me in faith, and eventually it'll feed my pocket. But I'm gonna go with my passion first.
That's just the preaching right there now.
Yeah.
So definitely a good word, Tracy. We definitely appreciate you for joining us on LearnBiz The Podcast. Please tell our viewers where they can read you.
I'm on Instagram at Fruitful Apparel Clothing. I am on Facebook. You just type in Fruitful Apparel and it should come up. My website is www.fruitfulapparel.com. My email address is fruitfulapparel@gmail.com. And I use that mostly for customs. Like if you want shirts for an event, church, corporate event, birthday parties, trips, you can usually email me and I'll go back and forth with you. We'll talk about quotes, prices, design, because I make all the designs myself as well. So we talk about that and get you all set up.
All right, Tracy, again, always a pleasure to hang around you, even for a brief period of time. We're going to close out by thanking you, of course, but Lisa's going to share some information on our upcoming Entrepreneur Mindset Summit.
Yes, on May 10th, we have a virtual mindset summit coming up, and it's free to all entrepreneurs, no matter what phase of business you're in, whether you're at the very beginning, just thinking about starting a business, whether you've already started and need some help, or if you're, years into a business, but you need to check in and make sure and touch base that you got everything flowing and you're up to date on so many levels, whether we're talking about accounting and finance and budgeting, or the proper business formation, social media, marketing and branding. There's something for everyone at this Entrepreneur Mindset Summit. So please mark your calendars for May 10th at 7 p.m. I believe is the time frame. It's 2 hours from 7 to 9. And stay tuned for some dynamic speakers. We have the best of the best. And so you don't want to miss it. We look forward to seeing each and every one of you there. We're going to have some of our wares, our LearnBiz paraphernalia, if you will. And we're going to engage Miss Tracy to help us out. How about that? With some of our custom designs that we're looking forward to. So stay tuned for more promotions and more information about the annual Entrepreneur Mindset Summit by LearnBiz.
So thank you guys so much for tuning in. Please be sure to click the like button, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you guys again soon.
Thanks, Tracy.
Thanks for having me.